Hello everybody and welcome to Introduction to Animation course. This course is for all beginners who would like to know how to animate using software Blender. Through this course we are going to learn all tools for making basic animations. We will learn about keyframes, graph editors, dope sheets and much more. First I will introduce you with the basic of animation and how to add keyframes. Later we will create 6 different projects where we are going to learn new things about animation for each project. The first project is going to be very simple. We will add a couple of keyframes and we will make simple animation. The next one is about graph editors and how we can use the graph editor to get the bounce effect. The third project is about animating camera using the curve. The fourth project is about rigging and we will create simple rig and a small scene which we will later animate. The fifth project is about particle system and you will see how we can use the particle system for creating cool effects and animation. And the last project is about character animation, and in this project I will show you where you can find free characters with free animation which you can use for your projects. So let's begin and learn how we can animate with Blender software. You will see how easy it can be. Hello everybody and welcome to our first video. So first thing that we are going to do, we are going to go and open our Blender, and here under new file we can choose between different workspaces. So some of them are for video editing, visual effects, sculpting, and we also have 2D animation with Blender. But usually what I'm doing the most, I'm creating a new file under general, because here I will be able to add all the workspaces that I need in order to start working and creating in Blender. So here, as you can see on our viewport, so this is viewport, we have all the necessary tools to begin. So we have camera, we have one light, and we have our default cube. So let me just real quick to turn up my screencast add-on. So this add-on will allow me to cast all the shortcuts that I'm using in this course. So here, first thing that I'm going to do, I will get rid of everything and we are going to start from scratch. So Blender is very powerful software when it comes to 3D animation, and right now I'm going to increase a little bit interface resolution. So let's make it 1.2. So now our icons are going to become a little bit larger so we can see it better. And now with the Shift and A I'm going to bring new monkey to our scene, Suzanne monkey. So you can find it under here, monkey. And this is Suzanne, and Suzanne is basically a complex mesh that Blender uses for representing materials and textures. And if you want to have another and different complex meshes like this one, you can go and turn on add-on. So under edit preferences you can find add-on, you can just write down objects, and here it is, add mesh extra object. And now with the Shift and A you will have different and more complex objects to add. So for example you can find, let's find it, for example you can find teapot, the famous teapot. So teapot are used in other softwares like Maya and 3ds Max. Let's see what we have next. So we have this pyramid and honeycomb, but for now I'm going to keep only Suzanne monkey. And let's scale it a little bit by pressing S and scale it. And now the next thing that we need for our animation is going to be camera. So you can find camera with the Shift and A, and here you will be able to edit, or you can go here and basically will get the same result. So now I'm going to move my Suzanne monkey with G and X to the side, and here it is our camera so you can see how it looks. And now you can go and toggle between camera view and viewport by going here, pressing this icon here, or you can press 0 on your numpad and you will be able to enter in camera view. By the way, if you don't have numpad, you will not be able to do this, and in order to fix it, you will need to go under preferences, input, and here you will need to turn on emulate numpad. So now your numbers on your keyboard above letters are going to behave as you have numpad, and if you press 0 you will be able to enter in camera view. So the next thing, if you want to move your camera, you can go and manually in viewport press G, R and move it to the side. You can also lock it on the axis Z, Y and X, and also you can just go and do it manually. But if you want to have more simple way to move your camera, you can press Shift, and I believe the name of this key is Crave key. So this key is above tab on your keyboard, and here you will be able to enter in camera view, fly camera view. So now you can use your keyboard and move with your camera around your 3D viewport. So if you press Q, you will be able to go down, and E, you will be able to move your camera up, and you can just fly around. By the way, if you want to increase the speed, you will need to scroll up your mouse wheel, as you can see, and if you want to decrease it, you will need just to scroll down your mouse wheel. So this is the best and the simplest way to move your camera around. So let's point our camera on our 3D cursor. So 3D cursor is the place which can help you a lot. So in this 3D cursor, all new objects are going to appear. So let's say we have a new cube tower scene. You can see that it appears on our 3D cursor, and if I hold Shift, you will be able to we are going to be able to move our 3D cursor. So let's say we move our 3D cursor here, add cube, and you can see that it appears here. By the way, if you want to return 3D cursor in the middle of your grid, you will need to press Shift and C, and now we snap back our 3D cursor in the middle. So you can also toggle it here and switch it. So 3D cursor also can be very powerful when it comes to animation. So for example, if you want to rotate this cube, you can see that it's rotating around itself, around its origin point, and the origin point is this orange dot. So it means that this object is born here, and I'm going just to go and move my Suzanne. So now you can see, if you rotate this cube, you can see that it's rotating around itself, and if you're scaling, you can see that it's scaling from that point here. So what you can do, you can go and, for example, you can move your mesh to the side, and you can press right click, set origin, and for example you can change the origin point of this cube, for example to 3D cursor. And now if you rotate, you can see that this object is rotating around 3D cursor, and if you scale it, you can see that it's scaling from that point. So those are some of the tips that you can use for your animation. So let's return our origin to center of the mass, and actually let's return our origin to 3D cursor. And if you want to snap back your mesh, you will need to go right click, set origin, and geometry to origin, and now our cube is snapped back to original position. By the way, if you go in edit mode by pressing tab, and for example if you move your mesh to the side and go out of edit mode, you can see that our origin point stayed in the middle. So be careful about that. So if you have any problem with those, you will just need to search for those dots, and that's the best way to figure out why your mesh isn't rotating or scaling as you wish. So you can see if I move it in object mode, now our our origin point stays the same, but if we are moving our mesh in edit mode, you can see that our cube changed position, but the origin point stayed the same. So let's get rid of this and let's back to our Suzanne monkey. So here we have our timeline. So this is how your animation is going to have frames, and we are going to talk more about that in the next video. Everybody, and welcome back to our second video in this course. So in the previous video we talked about 3D origin points and also 3D cursor. We also know now how to add mesh and camera and so on. I also showed you how you can use a couple of add-ons for getting more complex objects like teapot and so on. And now in this video we are going to focus a little bit more on animation itself, and the first step of that is going to be this timeline. So if you want to animate, this is the place where you are going to spend most of the time in Blender. So here on our timeline we can see all numbers of frames that we are going to use on our animation. So right now you can see here we have start, and this means that our animation is going to start from first frame and it will end on the 250th frame. So basically frames are just one single pictures, and in order to have animation we will need a couple of images to appear in seconds, and that's the way how we are going to make motions in Blender 2.83, and those are basic principles of animation. So as I already mentioned, here we have the starting point of our animation, which is number 1. So this means that our animation is going to begin from frame number 1 and it will end on 250th frame. Also you can go and change that number. So here you can see that we can increase and decrease the number of frames, and for example let's write down 240. So also if you want to zoom in and zoom out, you will need to scroll up and down your mouse wheel, and if you go way too big and you want to move, you can just hold and slide this bar, or you can hold your middle mouse and move it to the side, and as you can see Blender allows you to go out of frame, and those are the ways how you can navigate in the timeline. So actually it's very simple. You're just scrolling up and down and hold middle mouse and you will be fine. So now you can also hold this bar if you want to change the number of frames. So here you can see the active keyframe, current frame, and also you can just, if you want to be more precise, you can write down here, or you can hold arrows on your keyboard. So right arrow for moving this bar on the right side, and left arrow for the moving on the left side. So here, as I already mentioned, we have our animation is going to start from the first frame and it will end on the 240th frame. So right now the next thing, we can go under output files, and here you can see that we have our frame rate. So frame rate is number of frames that are going to appear in 1 second. So that's basically FPS. So this is FPS and it means frame per seconds. And here you can see that we have 24, which is standard for animation. But if you want to have more quality and more more fluid animation, you can go up to, actually you can write down custom, but there is no need for going beyond 60 frames. And even though that's way too much, so my advice, you should go 24 if you want to have your own animation. If you want to work for televisions or commercials, you can go 25, and the maximum you should go is 30. So that there is no need for spending too much time on rendering, so you can just go on 24 frames. And here you can see, as I already mentioned, our frame rate is 24, and if you multiply 24 frames per second, let's say that we want 10 seconds long animation, we can go and do calculations here. So multiply with 10, and here you can see that we have number 240. So Blender is very cool software, because here you can go, for example, minus 1 second. So 1 second is 24 frames, and you can see that you can just do calculation instead of calculating on your own. And those are some of the tips that can increase your speed flow and effectiveness in Blender. So the next thing here, we have markers, and we are going to talk a little bit we are going to talk about those a little bit later, but now I'm going to show you how you can very quickly and simple animate with Blender. So let's bring a simple cube, because it's going to be much easier to explain you with the cube. So let's go on our first frame. So this is the frame where your animation is going to begin, and here you can see that if you play this animation, you can play it with the spacebar, or you can play it here. And here you can see that we can play it from the right, and if you want to go in backward, you can just play it here. But don't forget that your animation, when you render it out, is going to move from the left to the right. Also, you can go and jump on the first and the last by going on those shortcuts. And here we don't have any keyframes, but if we have, we can go and just press to jump on the next keyframe. Also, we have auto keying, and this is very useful tool when it comes to animation, but we are going to talk a little bit more later on about this feature here. Let's start animating our cube. So in order to have animation, we will need keyframes. So the way we are adding keyframes are by pressing I, and here we have insert keyframe menu. And as you can see here, we have a lot different keyframes that we can add, but I want for now just to have location. And if you can see that we immediately have this cube here, which means that we have now one keyframe on our first keyframe on our animation. But if you play this animation, you can see that nothing is happening. And the reason for that is because we have only one keyframe, and this keyframe is now repeating on all keyframes on our timeline. So let's add second keyframe. So let's say, for example, on 120th frame, we are going to press G and X, and let's move our cube to the side. And now I can just go and press I and location to insert another keyframe just for location. And if you play this animation, you can see that nothing is happening until we have go and start moving our bar from the first keyframe until 220th frame. And you can see that when it goes after 120th frame, nothing is happening, and that's because now this keyframe is appearing on all these other keyframes until 220th frame, which later on, if you play this animation from 240th frame, this is the end of the animation. But if you play it from begin, it's going to appear again that our cube is moving. So now also, if you press M, you can see this transform menu here, and now you can see these keyframes in action. So we inserted 2 keyframes for the location, and now on the first keyframe you can see that we have this yellow color, which means that we have keyframes on those location bars. And now if you move it to the side, you can see that we have green color, which means that we have keyframe on those, but now it's calculating until the next keyframe. So you can see that we have moved our cube only on the X, and only numbers on the X are going to be changed until to 120th frame. And here you can see that it became again yellow. And as you can see later on, we have only green color and nothing is changing. That's because we have keyframes on X, Y, and Z. And our last keyframe is this one here. So let's change the keyframe here. For example, I want to be 7 meter on the X. I want my cube to move 7 meter. You can see that we have now orange color instead of yellow color, and that means that we have changed something in our keyframes, but we didn't change it as we want. And now I can prove it to you. So if you play this animation and go on the 120th frame, you can see that we didn't change the keyframe, and we only changed the number here, but we didn't replace the keyframe, or we didn't put another keyframe on top of this keyframe. In order to save those changes, we need to press right click, and here you can see that we can find replace keyframe by pressing right click and replace keyframe. Or you can do it by going, let's switch it, let's go for example until here, and you can do the same by pressing I, and now we have different keyframe on 120th frame. So let's say we want this cube to go here, and now we want to go back on our first keyframe, on our first position of the keyframe, and we can simply do it by duplicating this first keyframe. So we can duplicate it by using shortcut Shift and D, and now you can see that, for example, if we duplicate it until here, you can see that we have this line, which means that this keyframe is duplicated, and on those frames you will not see any changes. So you can go and press G to move it, and you can see immediately when we jump above 120th frame, we will not longer see this bar, this line here. So let's move it all the way until the last keyframe, and you can see that it's moving until this frame, and now it's going back to our first frame, which is duplicated. You can see it here, that is we have all zeros here. And if you play this animation, we have this kind of movement. And as you can see, it's actually very simple to animate in Blender, but you need just to exercise and practice. So the next thing that I want to show you and explain you is, you can see that we also have keyframes on the Y and Z, and those are sometimes unnecessary, which means it can complicate it to you. And here you can just press right click, and for example you can press clear keyframes, but if you press it clear keyframes, you can see that we don't have any keyframes, and basically it's clearing the whole system of keyframes on the location, and we don't need that. So we can just go and press clear single keyframes. So now we don't have any keyframes on the Y, and we are going to do the same on the Z, and now we have only green color on the X, and when it comes to keyframes it became yellows, and it will do the same again when we come until the end and on our first keyframe. So that's it about this video. Stay tuned because in the next video we are going to talk a little bit more about animation in Blender. So see you there. Everybody, and welcome to our third video in this course. So here you can see, if you play this animation, we made a very simple animation that this cube is going from the right to the left side, and now we are going to make it more complex, and we are going to talk a little bit more about keyframes and all the tools in the timeline. So first I'm going to press N, and now I will be able to see all the location, rotation, scale as well. So here you can see that we have 240 frame, and now for example what we can do also, for example we can go and insert keyframe on the 60th frame. For example, let's move this cube up on the Z location. So let's say 5 meter is going to be fine, and now I'll press I for inserting location. And now as you can see, our cube suddenly move up, and that's because the only keyframe that is active on the Z is going to be this keyframe here, which is 5 meter, and now we will need to fix it. So here I'm going to press 0, and here as you can see that now we have 3 different colors on the location on our first keyframe. So let me just show you what this means. So here you can see that we have keyframe on the X, and also we have keyframe on the Y, but this one is green, and that's because the only active keyframe on the Y is this 0 keyframe, and that keyframe is on the 60th frame. So here if you go back, you can see that we have this keyframe on the Y. And now as you can see, if you change it here, as I already mentioned, this means that we made changes on the keyframes, but we didn't make it keyframe. So we have changed it, but we need right now to insert keyframe on the Z as well. And as you can see here, we have also inserted keyframe on the Y. And right now we don't have any colors except yellow, which means that all keyframes are now set to Y. And now if you play this animation, you can see that Blender is calculating the in between frames to move our cube from Z up, and now it's moving on the left. And as you can see, we didn't replace our last keyframe. So if you want to delete keyframe, you can just select it here in timeline and press X and delete keyframes, or you can also clean keyframes and clean channels. So right now I'm going to delete keyframe, and now I'm going to select this first frame, and with the Shift and D I will move it all the way down, all the way until the last keyframe. And now you can see that our cube is moving and slowly returning to original position. And now as you can see, Blender is calculating from this position to this position here. So let's say we want this cube to move a little bit up and to stay for a while on this position. So the simplest way to do it is by using Shift and D and drag it here, using the same keyframe on the location. Now it stays here, and after that is going on this keyframe here. And you can see that we, for example, if we want to keep those numbers 0 and 5 on the Y and Z, we'll need to do the same here. So we already have it on the Y, but we will need here to insert the same. And now you can see that we have the same height on the Z all the way until 120th frame, and now it's returning back to its original position. So now I'm going to talk a little bit more about those settings here on the timeline. So here under view, you can, for example, turn on show seconds, and now you can see seconds instead of keyframes. So here you can see that we have 10, which means 10 seconds. So here is our first second, and now, for example, you can see that this is our first second of our animation, which means that this is 24 seconds, and basically this frame rate will tell you the number of seconds of your keyframe. So let's try and change it to 25, and here immediately you can see that we don't have now 1 second, and that's because we changed it to 25 seconds. So I'm going to return it back on our frame rate to be 24 seconds. I'm going to turn off it now, and here we can see all the different stuff that we need for our animation. We can have, for example, sync visible range or show markers and so on. And basically markers are just things that will help to stay organized on our animation. So for example, we can go on our first keyframe, and here we can add marker, and now we can go and rename marker, for example start, and here you can see that we have marker here, and we can also drag it with holding left mouse click and drag it through your timeline. And we can add second keyframe, for example here, add keyframe, and now we can go and rename it. For example, we can call this up keyframe, and those are just helping us to stay organized if we need it. For example, if we send this to second animator or somewhere else, so that's the easiest way to stay organized. Also, for example, we can go and delete markers, as you can see, and let's see what we have else. We can go and select marker, and here we can jump from next to previous markers. We can lock markers from being moved, and also we can move markers with a G and so on. So basically those are settings for the markers. Right now we don't need markers for this, because we are going to make some simple small animation. So right now I'm going, for example, let's delete all the keyframes for now. Let's select everything. By the way, you can go and press A, and immediately you will be able to select and deselect everything. So as you can see, if we don't have our cube active, we don't have any keyframes. So let me just show you. For example, I'm going to go and bring another cylinder. I will bring new cylinder to our scene, and here I'm going just to go and insert 2 keyframes on the cylinder. And now, as you can see, if we don't have any active meshes, we don't have any keyframes here on our timeline. But if we select our cylinder, we will have those 2, and now you can see that we can have a lot of keyframes on different meshes. So you just need to follow and be careful, and my advice is don't rush when you animating in Blender. You just need to slow it down and think about what you're aiming for and what you are doing. So right now I'm going to delete my cylinder, and now I will go back on our first keyframe, and here I'm going to press right click, and I will delete keyframes on the location. Actually, we can go and clear keyframes, so now we have only our cube. Also, for example, we can go and turn on our auto keying. So basically this option will allow us to have to immediately insert keyframes without pressing I or anything. But as you can see, for example, if I grab it, you can see that we have here auto keying on, which tell us that we have active keying on turned on. And for example, if I grab this cube and move it to the side, you can see that now immediately we have keyframes on the location, rotation and scale as well. And for example, if I rotate this cube and scale it, we immediately replace all the keyframes. So for example, we can go now and jump on the first keyframe, and for example we can go and scale it down, rotate it, and for example we can go on the 100th frame, move it to the side, rotate it as well. So now if you play this animation, you can see that moving up and going all the way and replacing all the keyframes on the all location, rotation and scale, and also it's changed also on the X, Y and Z. So you need to be careful when you use this option here. So let me just go and delete those, and here I'm going to go and clean all the keyframes for each. And right now I'm going to go and set it back all to scale to be 1 and rotation to be 0 and location as well. So right now, for example, we can go and switch to perspective view, and for example I want my cube to go from this position until here, and while it's going here I want to scale it a little bit. So first I'm going to press I to insert a location, and for this one we need only location and scale. And as you can see, we immediately have location and scale as well. So let me just clean and actually delete this keyframe. And now for example, instead of finding location and rotation, we can just go and press I here and I here. So you just need to hover above and press I, and immediately you will have insert keyframes on those location and scale as well. So for example, on 100th frame I want my cube to go all the way here, and for example I want to change the scale to be 1.5. So instead of writing down for each of this channel 1.5, we can go and just hold left click, and here I'm going just to press 1.5 and immediately we will change the scale number on all channels here. So as you can see, we have orange, which means that we made change on keyframes but we didn't insert keyframe. So I'm going to press I on the scale and also on the location, and now if you play this animation you can see that our cube is slightly growing up while it's going forward. So for example, let's say we want this one to decrease, and by the way you can hold left click and drag through all these channels, and for example you can now move right and left and immediately you will able to scale it up and down. And by the way, you can hold shift if you want to have smoother controls on those. So as you can see here, we can go all the way to about here. Orange means that we made changes but we didn't insert keyframe. So now I will insert keyframe, and now you can see that our cube is growing up. And for example, if we want to go back on its original position, we just need to duplicate this frame, and for example we can go and move it all the way until last keyframe, and now it's going back again on its original position. So right now, as I already mentioned, you can go and select keyframe and grab it by pressing G, and for example this is the middle. So as I already mentioned, if you want to do calculation, you can do it here. So 240 divided with 2 is 120. So that's the easiest way how you can find the middle of your animation. And now for example we can go and change the rotation on this 120th frame, but for that, before that, I want to insert keyframe here on the rotation and also here on the rotation as well on the last keyframe. And for this one, for example, we can go and switch it to, for example, we can go and write down 90, and here I'm going to press I and now you can see the whole cube is rotating and moving and scaling all the way. Also, you can play with all of these settings. So for example, we can go and scale this cube on the Y, for example like this, and for example we can go and rotate it like this. We can move it also on the Z, and now I'm going to press I to insert keyframes on those, and you can see that now this cube is transforming. As you can see, very simple animation we can make with only just couple of keyframes. So now you can also, for example, one of the advice I can give you when you are animating, for example, if you are deleting the keyframes, for example, if right now I delete all these keyframes, you can see that now the origin and location, rotation and scale are staying the same on your active keyframe. So in order to have this left, for example, if you delete these keyframes, you will need to set the active keyframes on, for example, you can set active keyframes to be this keyframe, and now if you delete keyframes, let me see, we need to delete it here. As you can see, we have different menus when we are in 3D viewport, and different menus are when we are on timeline. So to delete keyframes we need to be here, or we can go and press right click, and here we can delete keyframes by clearing the single keyframes or deleting keyframes here. So right now, as I already mentioned, I want to clear keyframes, and now you can also have different approach. So for example, we can go and press I here for location, rotation and scale, move until 120th frame. Now we can go and press G, X and for example S and Y to scale it on the Y. We can go and slightly rotate it on the X. Let's go a little bit bigger. Here we can go and press location, rotation and scale, and I'm going to duplicate it, the first frame. And so those are basically very simple ways of animating in Blender. So you can decide on what you need. If you want to be more precise, you should always use transforms menus here by pressing N on your objects, or you can go and play with the view and inserting keyframes on those. So that's it about this video. Stay tuned and see you in the next one. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video in this course. So here, as you can see, we learned about how we can use keyframes for creating animations. And before we jump on other things about animating in Blender, I want to show you that we can use the same effect on different things. So for example, we can go and bring Suzanne monkey to our scene. Let's scale it up, and for example, if we want to animate our camera, so if you press 0 you will be able to enter in camera view. And for example, we can go on our first keyframe, press I while we are having our camera selected, and here we are going to insert location, rotation and scale. And for example, on 120th frame I'm going to go in camera view by pressing 0, and now with the shift and that key above tab I will be able to enter in camera view. And for example, I want my camera to be on 120th frame on this position here, and here I will be able again to go and press location, rotation and scale as well. And now if you play this animation, you can see that we immediately animated our camera. Also, for example, you can go and bring point light to our scene, and now I'm going to switch to rendered views. And also you can hold Z, and in this pie menu you can just go and move it up, and here you can see that our with this rendered view you will be able to see how your render is going to look like. And for example, you can see that this is a very dark, and let's say we are going to bring power under this light properties of the point light, for example to, let's go actually to 1000, actually 1500 like this. And for example, we can go and turn on auto keying. So for example, on 120th frame I want this point lights to be here, and on our last keyframe I want it to be, actually let's move it in front of it. So now don't forget to turn off auto keyframe. So you can see that also we animated our light in Blender as well. As you can see, with just a couple of keyframes and few objects we can get very interesting results with. And for example, we can go and add materials to our Suzanne. Also we can add material to our floor, and actually you can see also how easy it can be to animate shadows and camera in Blender. So right now I'm going to get rid of everything. I can go and select everything to delete it, and next I'm going to switch to active workspace, which is animation, this one here on top. And basically this is a special workspace for animation. So basically you can also, for example, do and create it the same here in the layout, but Blender is very good software, and instead of, for example, separating this window here and for example switching this one to from timeline to dope sheet, you can just go and switch the whole area for animation. And here I'm going to add camera, and here if you can use this workspace only for camera, you can work here for your animation. And right now you can see that we have different editor type, and this one is a dope sheet. So this is a little bit different than the timeline, because with the dope sheet we will have a little bit more control on our animation. So let's bring, for example, Suzanne monkey to our scene with the shift and A, and I'm going to search for monkey Suzanne. And as you can see on our camera view, we are not seeing the whole Suzanne. And for example, now you can go and press 0 and crave key, and now you can set the camera how you like it. So let's say we want our camera to point here directly on our Suzanne. And now also, for example, you can select camera, and here under camera you will have different options. So for example, under viewport display you can turn on compositing guides. So if you turn on center, and by the way you can see that we don't have overlays, so those are the options that are preset in the animations. You can also toggle it here, but in order to see those guidelines you will need to turn on overlays. So right now you can see the center of your camera, and for example you can, let me just zoom out here. So for example you can just go and turn on pace part out until 1, so right now you can only see what your camera is seeing and nothing else. And also, for example, you can turn other compositing guides like thirds and center as well. And here we have, as I already mentioned, our Suzanne, and I'm going to scale it up a little bit. So right now, as you can see, we have our first keyframe is going to be first, and the last keyframe of our animation is going to be 240th frame. So here in dope sheet under summary we don't have anything, but for example if I press I for inserting location, rotation and scale, now we have a lot of different things here in our dope sheet. So as you can see here we have 4 dots, which means that we have a lot of keyframes here. And if you press here and open the whole object transform menu, you can see that we also have Z, Y and X scale keyframes. We have those keyframes, and for rotation keyframes and location as well. So here we can go and play with all of these individually. And let me just go and, for example, on the 60th frame I want my Suzanne monkey to rotate around the Z axis, for example 90 degree. And here I'm going to press right click, actually I'm going to select I and insert location, rotation and scale. Let's also decrease number of keyframes to 60, and now you can see that our Suzanne is turning around Z. And for example I'm going to go and I'm going to keep it as it is actually for now, and let's switch to rendered view. So here you can see how your render is going to look like. And now I'm going to add simple material. Let's make it, for example, let's go and make it kind of blue, and with the Shift and A I'm going to create a new plane to our scene. So this is going to be our background, and here I'm going to go and select those two in edit mode by pressing tab, and now I can go and press E for extruding this out. So now while I'm having vertex selection I can go and press Ctrl B, and here by scrolling up I will be able to add this backdrop and also to bevel those edges here. So right now I'm going to change shading to smooth, and now also I will go and, for example, I can go and rotate it around Z. So to about here, let's see it. And now I'm going also to add, let's see, red material, so basically red material, and also I will change shading to smooth. And now with the Shift and A I'm going to bring sun to our scene, and I will increase strength of it to 2, and we can go and, for example, just pull this a little bit up. I will also turn off our overlays because we don't need it for now, and for example I can go and just move it forward. This sun and actually let me just go and rotate it in front. So right now we can see how our animation is going to look like when we render it out, and I'm going to turn off shadows for now. Let me just go and point it directly on Suzanne. So something like this. So as you can see that all our keyframes suddenly disappear, and that's because we didn't select our Suzanne monkey. And here you can see a lot of different things that is happening here. So as you can see on all our keyframes we have the same value. So here you can see that we have those bars that I mentioned before in this course, which means that this keyframe is copied on the 60th frame and we don't have any changes on X location. So you can see it here that our X, Y, Z, so basically those three doesn't have any changes. You can see and follow it here as well on dope sheet, and also we don't have any changes on those as well. So the only thing that is changing is going to be this one here on the Z for 90 degrees. So here we can go and, for example, lock those. As you can see, we can lock the whole object transforms. So right now we cannot change anything here. But for example, if we want to lock those settings here and we want, for example, only to have Z rotation active, we can just go and enable it on the Z, and right now we can go and play it only for our Z rotation channel. So also let me show you one more thing. So for example, if you want to animate material, for example, you can also do the same here by pressing I, and here you can see that we immediately have a different keyframe here. So right now I'm going to delete it because I want to leave it for the next video. And here under dope sheet we have different things, as you can see here. So here we can decide to show only selected keyframes, and also here we can show also all hidden ones and all errors. And here on this filter you will be able to select what you want to see on dope sheet. Also here on this drop menu here you can select how your keyframes are going to be snapped. So here you can see that you can turn on auto snap, frame step, second step, nearest frame, and also nearest marker as well. And here also under select you will be able to select all, and also you can see all the shortcuts here. You can select none, invert selection. You can also use B for box selection. So as you can see here it can be quite complicated. So right now I'm going to turn off all of these lockdowns, and for example you can see that now I can go and select only this part with box selection, and those are very useful things. And by the way, you don't need to use B shortcuts. You can just go and hold left click and you can just go and select all the keyframes that you want to select. So let's go on the 30th frame, and for example let's change scaling here to be to about here. So let's make it 1 actually, and I'll press right click, and here I'm going to insert keyframes on the scale. So as you can see here now we have different keyframes, but now it's only on the X, Y and Z. So right now if you scale this you can see that our Suzanne is scaling down, and after that is scaling up. And for example, let's see what will happen if we, for example, move this keyframe, this Z scale a little bit before. So you can see that Suzanne is squashed down, and after that is rotating the same way. So as you can see, we can go and play with all of these settings. So you will need to think about what you want to animate it and how you want to be animated as well. So right now, as you can see, if you go under rendered properties, you can see that we are using Eevee, and for now we are going to keep everything as it is, but here in this output properties you will be able to change the rendering resolution, and also here you will decide when your frame is going to start and when it's going to end. And if you want to render this animation, you can go and change the file format to AVJPEG. We are going to talk a little bit more about those settings, but for now I want to show you how you can render this out. And here under output settings you will be able to select location where your render is going to be saved. So for example, you can create a new folder, and let's call this animation, and here you can press accept. And now the only thing that you need to do is you will need to go under render, and here you can just press render animation, and your rendering is going to begin. So here you can see how many frames is already rendered, and as you can see, render is real time and is very fast, so it will not take too much to render the whole animation out. So that's it about this video. Stay tuned, because in the next videos we are going to talk about graph editors, and we are going to start animating more complex things like characters, and I will show you how you can use bones for rigging your meshes in Blender. So see you there. Everybody, and welcome back to our 6th video in this course. So here you can see that we are already talk about dope sheet and how we can use dope sheet to manipulate with the keyframes. And now I'm going to show you a little bit more advanced technique for manipulating the keyframes, and that one is going to be graph editor. So first thing that I'm going to do, I will get rid of Suzanne monkey. And by the way, if you want to maximize some of these windows, you can press Ctrl and T, and you will have the full screen of your workspace. And if you want to go back, you just need to press Ctrl and space one more time. So now first let's add something to our scene. So with the Shift and A, I'm going to search, let's say I'll bring simple star to our scene, and now I'm going to rotate it on the Y for 90 degrees and also on the Z for 90 degrees as well. So now I will go and add a new material to it, and let's switch colors on this background as well. So let's make this one, let's see, something like this is going to be fine. And right now if you press N and go under item, you can see that we have different numbers, and I want to apply all the transforms that I did on this star. So if you go under object, you can go under apply, and here you will be able to apply all transforms. And now you can see that we reset all location, rotation and scale to 1, and those are on 0. So first let's try to rotate this around itself. So first I'm going to go on first keyframe, and with I will insert location, rotation and scale. So this is going to be our first pose, and with the Shift and D I'm going to duplicate it on the 60th frame, but I will next go on the 60th frame, and here instead of 0 I will write down, let's say 360. As you can see, it became orange, and here I'm going to press right click and as you can see, we changed the rotation on the z-axis. Right now I think it's a little bit too fast, so here I'm going to go and increase number of keyframes to be, let's say, 150. Now I'm going to grab this, I will select this, and with G I will move it all the way till the end. And now if you press space, you can see that we have this simple animation. So right now in between those keyframes is going to be 75th frame, and here I will go and move my star a little bit up to about here. And as you can see here, we have different keyframe, so I'm going to insert keyframes on all of these, and now you can see that our star is moving up and down. And maybe we should go and scale our star, for example here to be 0.5. I will replace that keyframe, and here also same 0.5. So now it's scaling up and now it's going down again. Also I want to add a little bit more on camera animation. So first I'm going to select my camera. Let's see, so this is our camera, and here on our first frame I want my camera to be here, and now on this frame here I want my camera to move slightly up. And now I'm going to go and select my camera here. So this is the keyframe for camera, and with the Shift and D I will duplicate it all the way till the end. So something like this, and here maybe we can go and actually we are going to keep as it is for now. So now I'm going to show you how you can edit those keyframes with graph editor. So first I'm going to select star, and here instead of dove sheet I'm going to change my editor type to be graph editor. So here I'm going to zoom in, zoom out, and if you open it here you can see that we have those curves that we can manipulate in order to change the settings of it. Also I'm going to press A to select everything, and in order to see them, so you can see how big it is, I'm going to press normalize, and now I will zoom in, and here I will be able to see all those. So right now I'm going to turn to hide all of this, and here you can see that, for example, if we select this one here, so you can see that all of them, X location, Y location and Z location are here, but the only thing that are changed is going to be this Z location. So you can see that here you can see that our Z location, I'm going to hide all of this. So now as you can see we have three keyframes, three dots. I'm going to zoom in so we can see it clearly. So first dot, second dot and the third dot. So those dots are basically keyframes, and you can see the Z location is turned on. So this is the only active curve, active keyframe that we can manipulate. And for example we can go and grab this one, and for example we can go and press G and pull this up. So let's say to about here, and you can see that it goes way too up and coming way too down. So let me just zoom out so you can see it clearly. So you can turn off this one here, and here if you go in on this 75th frame you can see that this one, if you move this curve up and down, you can see that also the value on the Z is changing. So basically because this is 2D and we cannot use G and Z to lock it on the Z. Instead of that we are going to use G and Y to manipulate this curve here. So also, for example, if you want, we can go and change the starting point of this one here. So for example, if we want our start to go down from beginning, so we can go on our first frame, and here you can see that instead of writing down and replacing keyframes here, we can go and change the location on the Z just by moving this graph editor up and down with the G. Also, we can do the same here and here as well. So basically here 0 means 0, and if you go here on 75th frame, you can see that our value is right now to about 4.8, and it's to about here. You can zoom in to see it that we have the same value on this graph editor as well, and those are keyframes, and those here are numbers that show us value of it. So basically, instead of working with those manipulators here and writing down, here we can have better preview of all of these settings. And here, for example, we can go and you can see that we have, when we select keyframe, we have those two dots as well, and those we can also manipulate. So let me just show you real quick. So you can see that our line is coming very narrow and later on is slowing down, so it means that it will go faster and at the end it will slow down. So for example, what we could do, we could go and select this one here, this curve here, and for example we can go and pull this down, or actually we can go and pull it up. So right now you can see what's going on. So basically this star is coming out of frame, so I'm going real quick to just zoom out, and here I'm going to scale this one. So you can see actually that this star is going up a little bit higher than we want, and basically this handle is controlling the behavior of it. So also you can scale it down, and for example, if you want this one to go a little bit slower down, we can go and just rotate it. But as you can see, we cannot manipulate the only this one, and in order to change that, we will need to change the handle type. So here I'm going to select this middle keyframe, and if you press F, actually if you press V, you will be able to change different handle type. So for example, you can set free, and right now if you select this one, you can now see that the only handle that is changing is going to be this one here, and also we can go and do the same for this one here. And as you can see, it's quickly going down and it's slowly coming till the end. Also here, for example, we can go and if we want our star to stay a little bit longer in the air, we can go and you can see it's staying longer, and now real quick going down. So basically for those types we can go and change the interpolation mode. So right now I'm going to select all of this, and actually I'm going to turn on scale as well. And here actually I will deselect those, and I want to select all of this, and I want to delete those keyframes because I want to have only available Z location. Actually we can go and even delete those as well that we don't need. So let's only work on the Y location in order to explain the whole animation process with graph editor and curves. So here, as I already mentioned, we have those curves, and here we made a little mess, and now we can go and fix it. So here if you press T, you can see that we have different keyframe interpolation, and here we can see how our lines are going to look like when we change the interpolation mode. So for example, if we press constant, now if you play this animation, you can see that we have constant curves, and for example, if you go all the way, you can see that nothing is changing. Only the thing that is changing is going to be on the 75th frame and on our last frame when it goes down. So those types of interpolation modes are very useful when we start adding keyframes to our scene, but later on we will need to change it. So for example, let me just clear my camera keyframes. So now we have only our star in focus. So this is how our constant interpolation mode works. And for example, if it's set to linear, you can see that the speed of it is going to be the same all the way. And those type of animation are good for example, loop animation. So you can see that it doesn't change any speed when it's going up and down. And you can see that we don't have any changes here. It's actually just going straight until the next point. And here, for example, we can go and pull it up and down and play with those settings as well. And here, if you set to Bezier and also this one here, we are going to return to original position. So here I'm going to change this to align. Now I'm going to rotate it as well. Also this one here, I will just go and actually we can go and select all of these. And now I'm going to press S, Y and 0 to make it flat. Also we can do the same on the other side as well, but it's already flat there. And now I will go and press S, Y and 0 here. S, Y and 0 to make it flat, this one here. And now for example, we can go and scale this on the X, actually move this one to the X. So now as you can see, it's slowly going up and now it starts slowing down until the end. So right now we can go and change different type of interpolation mode on this middle one, and now you can see that immediately going down, and after that is slowing as well. So you can play with all of these settings. So here we have circular, we have cubic, back, bounce. Here for example, you can see that we have bounce up, it's going up and down, and basically those are the finesse that you can use for smoothing out your animation. And also one more thing that I want to mention, in graph editor you can press N and here you will have modifiers, and basically here we have a couple of modifiers that we can use. We can use limits, noise, cycles for making cycle animation and so on. So for example, if you select noise and if you play this animation, you can see that we have noise on our curve and it's basically immediately changing the values. So those sometimes can be useful. For example, if you animate a camera that is moving, shaking or something like that, you can use this one here. And for example, you can change the, let me just move this so we can see it, all of these shortcuts. So here for example, we can increase the scale of it, we can increase the strength, you can see how this curve is behaving here. You can change the offset of it. You can also press right click to unset and reset to default. You can change the phase and also depth of it. And here you can just cancel it because we don't need it right now. So also here you can also add all of these markers, and also you can select everything linked and so on. And now you can go and render the whole scene out. And here for example, let's try to turn on shadow, And right now I'm going to go and pull this all the way up, and I will just go and change my camera type. So here I will go and, for example, move my camera let's try somewhere else. So let's say to about here. I'm going to keep this one here. Actually, we don't need now backdrop. Now we can use only the simple plane. Let's make it orange. And now I will just go and pull it down, so like this. And also I want to add rotation on this one on 75th frame. So here I will go on our first keyframe. I will press I for inserting rotation, also on the last frame, but here on the 75th frame I want to go and press plus, and here we can go and insert the keyframe for 180 degrees, and on our last keyframe we can go and write down plus 180, and here we can go and add one more time plus 180, and here I will just go and replace the keyframe. So now you can see that our star is rotating and now is bouncing back. And also, for example, for this one we can go and turn on ambient occlusion and bloom, and also screen space reflection. So let's go and add a little bit emission as well. Actually, we cannot do it like that. We will need to select our star first, and here actually I will keep it off emission for now on this one here. And now we can go and change our output file to be animation. I'm going to change the name of this one, second animation. I will keep file format AV JPEG, and here I will render our second animation for this course. So that's it about this video. Stay tuned, because in the next video we are going to create a little bit more complex animation, and we will have another project to work on. Everybody, and welcome back to our 7th video in this course. So here you can see that we are done with animating our star, and also we learned how we can use graph editors to manipulate with the keyframes. So now I'm going to go and start animating camera, so you can see how we can animate camera to rotate around objects. So first I'm going to get rid of my plane, and also I will get rid of my star. And now, as you can see here, we only left with the camera and sun. So real quick, I will turn on my screencast add-on, and here for this video we will need to turn on also one more add-on, which is Blender Kit. So right now, if you go under add-ons and search for Blender Kit, here you can find it, and it's called Blender Kit Online Assets Library. And here you will just need to enable it, and if you press N here, you will be able to find this Blender Kit add-on, and here you can search for a lot of free assets that you can use for your projects. Some of them are locked and you will need to pay for them, but you can find a lot of for free. So for example, you can find different vehicles, as you can see here, and you can scroll to see the whole library there. And also, for example, you can search different styles, and not only they have the free assets, but they also have materials free and also some brushes. So first I'm going to find this under character, under assets, and for this course I want to use this old human school model. So I'm going to drag it to our scene, and here it is. So we don't need this Blender Kit add-on anymore, so I'm going to hide it. And also you can see that we have a lot of filters that will help us to find much easier things that we want for our projects. So now I'm going to press N to hide it, and now as you can see we need to scale our school like this. And now with the Shift and A I'm going to bring a new plane to our scene. So now we can go and switch to rendered view so we can see how it's going to look like. And I'm going to add a new material to our plane, and let's make it black. And also I want to increase a little bit more roughness, actually decrease it. I want to have a reflection on this bottom part, and I'm going to use 0.3 specular for this key. So now if you press 0 you will be able to enter in camera view. And now I'm going to try to position our camera where it should be, so to about here. Now I'm going to scale my plane, and let's see what else we can do. So now, as I already mentioned, I want my camera to rotate around object, and we can do it by adding, with the Shift and A we can add a circle to our scene. And now I'm going to switch to solid view so we can see it better. And now I will scale this curve around school. So here, as you can see, we have curve properties, and here we have resolution. We can increase the geometry of it, as you can see, but we don't need it. We don't need to be visible on our render. But with this curve I will be able to add constraint to the camera so it follows the curve around, and we can animate that. So right now I can go and select camera, and here I can find follow path, and here for the target I can use this eyedropper tool, and for example I can go and find this Bezier circle. And now if you play this animation you can see that nothing is happening. That's because we need to press here and animate our path. So right now if you play this animation you can see that it's going around, but as you can see we need to fix those. So first thing that I want to do, I want to go and I want to position my camera on its original position. So here it is a little bit up, and right now I will need to rotate it. Also you will need to press follow curve, and right now I can go and rotate it toward as well. So now for example we can go and position our camera a little bit more better. So I will press N, and under item I want here to be 0. So let's see. And also I want, actually I want, let's try those to be 0 as well. Now we can go on our first frame, and here I will go up, and here also I will write down 90. Actually we need to write down -90, and also I'm going to go and rotate it also toward our school, so to about here. So let's switch to look dive mode so we can see. And here you can see that we need to move a little bit down our school. So now if you play this animation, you can see that it's going around, and also I want this circle to scale a little bit, so I will switch back to solid view. Now I'm going to select my circle, so to about here, and also I will select back my camera, and here I will just position it in the middle of the head, maybe just a little bit more down, so like this, and be careful to scale the plane as much as possible so you don't have any empty spaces around. So the next thing that I want to animate is going to be I will need to select my camera, and here under camera, let's say we can go and play with the focal length. So I'm going to keep mine, for example, 40, like this. Now I can stop it, and also if you select this Bezier curve, and here you will have this path animation. So here on our first frame we can go and press 1, insert keyframe here. So actually here it's deciding when our animation is going to start. It's going to rotate for 100 degrees, for 360 degrees. So here on our first frame, actually let's make it here 150 frames, and don't forget to turn on this follow curve path children to rotate along the path. Also increase the resolution here, and I'm going to increase resolution here as well to 64. So now we can go and turn on this preview. So let's see how it's going to look like. And you can see that we have really cool animation ready to be rendered out. So also under output, under render settings, you can go and change the look of it. So for example, you can increase the contrast of it if you want to have higher contrast than before. And actually I'm going to keep my medium high contrast. And let's see if everything is okay here. By the way, if you want to have more higher quality render, you should use always cycle, but for now I think I'm going to keep Eevee just because of the faster rendering output, and this is exercise anyway. So you can see that we have really cool animation done, and now we can turn on ambient occlusion and bloom as well. And now we can go and set the output settings. So this is our third animation, so we have those two, and I'm going to call this one third animation. I'm going to keep everything as it is, and here I will keep full HD, and now I can go and render the whole scene out by going here under render and render animation. So here in this video you learned how you can use Bezier curve and also constraint follow path to animate turn around camera, and as you can see we are going to get very easy and fine results for our projects. So that's it about this video. Stay tuned and see you in the next one. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video in this course. So here you can see that we are done with animating our camera, and now I'm going to show you how you can use bones and rigging for animating with Blender 2.82. So first thing that I'm going to do, I will get rid of my school, and also I will get rid of my plane, and we don't need this one as well. Actually, let's delete everything. So with the Shift and A, I'm going to bring new camera to our scene, and for now I'm going just to move it to the side to about here. And also with the Shift and A, I want to have one simple sun to our scene. So first thing that I want to show you is how you can use rigging for creating animation, and how it can be helpful and what is the purpose of it. So first thing, let's go and create, for example, simple cube to our scene. I'm going to switch to solid view. I will scale this down all the way, and I will press S and X to scale it on the X, so we have this long cube. And now I will go in edit mode, and here with Control and there I'm going to add edge loops around, and also I'm going to add also on those sides as well. And above that I will also give one simple subdivision as well, and I will change shading to smooth. So we have something like this. So for example, if we want to break this down and to actually bend this one here, we will need to use rigging or using shape key. So first I'm going to duplicate this, and I will show you both of these, how you can use, and later on we are going to animate with those techniques something else. So first thing that I want to show you is how you can rig models like this and what is rigging. So rigging is basically adding bones to mesh. So with the Shift and A we can go and bring armature to our scene, and basically this is just simple bone. So the first thing that usually you will need to do, you will need to go under viewport display, and here you will select in front. So right now, no matter where you are, you will be always able to see this bone here. And also, real quick tip, you can turn on this filter for selection, and as you can see here, we are going to disable sun from being selected. So basically this is just simple bone, and you can also rotate it, you can scale it down and move the location as well. So first thing that I'm going to do, I will rotate this for 90 degrees on the Y, and I will move it by pressing G and X to the side. So now I can go in edit mode, and here for example you can go and just move it all the way here. And by the way, you can press right click to subdivide those, and I will do it twice. So right now, as you can see, we have 4 bones here as well. So now if you go in pose mode, so pose mode is used for testing rigging and also testing how your rig is going to behave. So as you can see, this bone is rotating all other bones, this bone is rotating those two in front, and this bone is rotating only this one in the front. By the way, you can also rename all of these bones, and as you can see, the next step is to attach these bones to mesh. So for that we will need weight paintings, and weight painting is adding weight to these bones. So we can go and select both of these, and with Ctrl and P, actually first we will need to select mesh that we want to add bones to it, and after that we will add bones with holding Shift. And now if you press Ctrl and P, you can go and search, for example, set parent with automatic weights. So for example, if you now go in pose mode while you are selected one of the bones, if you go right now in the pose, you can see that actually we can go and bend the whole cube, very simple and very easy. So right now I'm going to switch back to object mode, and I will increase number of subdivision. Also I will add 2 subdivision on the side as well. And now I can go and select my bones back, and here I will be able to bend this bone very simple and very easy, as you can see. Also there is one more thing that you can change, and that one is bendy bones. So here you can go in object mode. Actually first I will go in pose mode, and in order to return this to original position you will need to press Alt and R. Actually let me see, you need to select everything, and here you press Alt and R to reset the rotation of the bones. So now in object mode you can go under viewport display and change the display as B bone. So this B bone means bendy bone. And now if you go under bendy bone, you can for example increase number of segments. So let's go and switch to 4. Also for this one here, and for the rest as well. So now this bone is bending a little bit better than the previous one, and you can now really simple bend the whole bone. So for example, now how we can animate this, we can go on our first frame, and for example I want the whole thing to be in this pose, and we can just press simply, actually we need to be in pose mode, and here I will reset my rotation, and here I will press I and insert location, rotation and scale. And for example on the 20th frame I want my bone to, let's say, start going up like this. I will select A for selecting the whole everything, and here I will insert another keyframe. And now for example on the 40th frame we can go and return this back. So something like this. And here I will press I for inserting location, rotation and scale. And for example we can go and duplicate the first keyframe. So now you can see what we have here. So as you can see, it's very simple to animate with perfect rigging for your mesh. So this is just a basic rig. For the character you will need a lot to learn. There is a lot of techniques for rigging character, and also it will take a lot of time to explain this in one course. Maybe in the next course we will talk more about rigging. So for now this is just fine for knowing how rig is working and how it's behaving. And by the way, I want to explain you how this weight painting is working. So here I will select both of these, and here if you go under weight painting you can see actually this blue means that there is nothing attached to this bone. And here we have, for example, this is the first bone here, and you can see that red means full control, and those colors are telling us that we have a little bit control on this area here. Also for the second bone, so this area is controlled the most by the second bone, and basically that's the weight painting. And also for example you can paint and fix some of the issue if you have. For example, if you want this bone to control a little bit more on the whole, to have a little bit more control on the whole mesh, you can just go and paint it to it and so on. And if you want, you can go under this active tool workspace settings. You can change from the draw to subtract, and here you will be able to remove the whole mesh. Also you can do it manually. So basically you can go, for example, select this first bone here, and if you go in edit mode, for example, you can go and select all of this bone, and now you will assign this bone with this one here, pressing assign. And now if you go back, you can see that we assigned that bone to the other ones as well. So you can see how easy it can be to rig something like this. Usually when it comes to rigging character or animals, it's becoming very difficult and very hard, because you will need to think about how much control you want on each bone, and you will need a lot more bones than for something like this. Also, there is another way to animate this, and that one is with the shape key. So basically this one is helping us to have different shapes, and we can animate between those. So for example, on our first frame we can press twice plus here on this data properties, object data properties, and for example on this second keyframe we can go and, let's say, I'm going to turn on my X-ray, and I will switch to proportional editing tool, and for example we can go and pull this up and rotate as well. Rotate it here. And here you can see that on our second one we can just manipulate with those values here, and for example we can just go and press here to insert keyframe on our first frame, and on our second frame we want to go and to change its shape on this 20th frame. So now if you play this animation, you can see that it's going to the second shape key, which is the shape key that we previously made it. And for example you can go, for example, something like this, and it doesn't matter, it's going just to go and change the shape to it. And for example you can duplicate this to go in original position, but this one is really hard and it's complex, but for something like eye blinking it's going to be helpful. And right now I'm going to show how easy it can be to make eye blinking. So with the Shift and A I'm going to bring UV sphere to our scene. I will change shading to smooth, and I will also rotate it for 490 degrees on the X. So now this point is facing toward us, and right now we can go and add another UV sphere. Now I'm going to select this bottom part. I will delete those vertices by pressing X, and now I can go and press L to select everything linked, and press X to select the whole bottom part. Now I can go and select this up, and for example we can go and actually let me just go and select this one and change shading to smooth, and also I will add solidify. So now we have a little bit more geometry inside, and here I will also increase the thickness of it. So right now I'm going to go and change my 3D point here to the side, and basically I will go and change my origin point to be origin to the 3D cursor, and now you can go and animate blink by just pressing here I for inserting location, rotation and scale. And for example on the 20th frame we can go and pull this up, as you can see. So now we can go and duplicate this one, rotate it for one. Actually we will need for this one to delete keyframes, and I will rotate this one for 180. So this is our first keyframe, and this one we will need here to insert location, rotation and scale. And let's say for this one here we can go and insert another location, rotation and scale. And actually we will need to move this to the side. So I'm going to go and I will need to fix the issue here. So I will change origin point there, and also I will do the same here. So right now it's right here. I'm going to move it closer, and now I can go and pull it here. So on our first frame, I will do the same here. On our first frame, I'm going to press I for inserting location, rotation and scale. And now for the second one, we can go and insert it here. And here, as you can see, we need to move this to the side, so I'm going to delete those two. And on the 20th frame, I want to be here. And on our first frame, I will rotate it back to about here. So you can see that something like this can be used for making animation for blink. And right now I'm going to delete the whole thing, and with the Shift and C I will return my 3D cursor in the middle. So now I'm going to go and create a simple tree, and here I will disable this from being selected. Also I will keep this one the same, and let's say with the Shift and A I will go and create a new cube to our scene. I will scale this all the way down, and now I will, with the face selection, I can go and, for example, we can go and extrude this down, extrude this up. So very simple tree we are going to make. I'm just pressing E for extruding. Maybe we can go and extrude this one here. And maybe this one, and I'm going to scale this down. So we have our base of 3, and now with the Shift and A we are going to bring new UV to our scene, UV sphere, and now we are going just to go and duplicate this couple of times. So with the Shift and D I'm just duplicating those. And here maybe those are going to be very small, so something like this. Now with the Shift and A we can go and, for example, add some trees, some rocks down. So one here, let's rotate the second one. And also, for example, we can go and add small grass. I'm going to select my cube, switch it here. And here I will just go and scale this all the way down. And I will duplicate this a couple of times. I will rotate it also. So very simple scene, as you can see here. So right now I'm going to add also materials to it. So this one is going to be brown. I'll need to change the color here. So something like this. Now I'm going to go and join all of these together by pressing Ctrl and J. And here I will just go and add base color green. Also I will do the same for those. Ctrl J to join those together. Now I'm going to switch color to be some darker green, and Stones are going to be gray. Also this one here. So now I'm going to enable sun from being selected again, and here I will just go and move it to the side, and here I will just go and increase the strength of it. So let's go and make it 3, and now I'm going also to change the color of my plane. So something like this. Now I'm going to switch with my camera to be in front. So let's say to about here. And also I want now to rig the whole tree. So with the Shift and A, I will switch back first to solid view, and now I will join all of these together by pressing Ctrl J. So now we have only one object here, and also before rigging we are going to apply all transforms. So now if you press N, you can see that we have 0 on location, 0 on rotation, and 1 on scale. So now with the Shift and A, let's bring another armature to our scene, and here under viewport display visibility we will need to turn on in front. So it's right here. So I'm going to select this one here, I will extrude it up to about here, and this one here as well, and I want this one to be there, and the second one we can go and extrude it all the way maybe to about here. I think it's going to be fine. As you can see, very simple, just extruding it out. So let's try and see how this bone is working, and that's exactly what we need. So make sure that we have all of these bones connected like it should be, and now we can go and select first mesh, then armature, and with Ctrl P we can attach these bones, and I believe that we will be able now, very simple and easy, to pose the whole tree. As you can see, it's moving around. So for example, let's animate it. So on our first frame I want my rig to be here, and for example on the 20th frame I want this one to go up here, and for example something like this. I'll press I for inserting location, rotation, and scale, and for example on the 40th frame it goes back. So also I will decrease the number of keyframes, and now for example we can go and simply just go and add two UV spheres to represent eyes. I'm going to change shading by pressing right click, not on the tree but on the UV sphere. So here I'm going to go and right now I can go and hide armature, and now I'm going to duplicate those two together. I will join them, and here I will apply this black material to it, and now I will press Ctrl and J, and also I will need to attach those two. So now we can go in weight painting, and to fix this we will need to go under armature, and here we will need to add this middle bone. So this one is here, and now in edit mode we can just press assign while we are having our eye selected. So now if you go in object mode back, now you can see that it's following that bone there. So right now I'm going to go and try to find good position for my camera. I'm going to go and move my sun to the side. I will rotate it. Here, for example, you can go and change the color of it. So let's hide this. And you can see very simple character is made for around 5 minutes, and we have really cool results that we can share with our friends and so on. So now we can go and render the whole scene out. So I will go and change this one to fourth animation. I will just change the name. I will keep everything the same. And here I can go and press render and render animation, and our rendering is going to begin. So that's it about this video. Stay tuned, because in the next video we are going to work a little bit more with the particle system, and I will show you how you can use it for creating animation. So see you there. Everybody, and welcome to another video in this course about animation in Blender. And here you can see that we did rigging on our basic mesh, and now in this video we are going to talk a little bit about particle system in Blender and how we can create something cool and animation for our projects. So first thing that I'm going to do, I will get rid of everything here, and right now I'm going to go and with the Shift and A I will create a simple cube. So here you can see that we have here particle system on the particle properties in this properties panel here. And here if you press plus, you can see that if you play this animation, you can see that we have some balls that are falling down, and those are particles. So right now I'm going to increase the number of frames. So let's go for example 150, and here you can see that all particles currently falling down. And as I already mentioned, the reason for that is because we have gravity by default in Blender turned on. So here in the particle settings we have a lot of particle settings that we can change and we can play with. So here under force field settings, actually it's under field weights, we can for example turn off gravity, and right now you can see that our cube is emitting particles from all faces around. So all particles are traveling around. And let's go on our first setting. So here we can select the number of particles that our cube is going to be to emit in our viewport and in our render as well. So let's decrease this number to, let's say, 500. And here you can see that we immediately have less balls than before. So here you can change the seed. So this is like a randomness of the numbers and of how those particles are behaving. Here you can select the number of frame when your animation is going to start, where your cube actually is going to emit the particles. So let's say for example from the 50th frame you can see nothing is happening, and suddenly it starts emitting those particles. So let's return it. And here for example you can decrease number on when your emitter is going to end emitting those particles. So you can see that it emits only on the 50th frame and then stops, but we still can see we still can see particles, and that's because we have here a lifetime of them. So here for example if I increase the number of lifetime, you can see that they will stay for a longer time on our scene. And for example you can also increase lifetime randomness, so suddenly some of them are disappear earlier and some of them are going to stay for a longer time. So those are basic settings for those. So next we have source. So here you can see that it's emitting from the faces, and for example if you select emitting from the vertex, our particles are started to be emitted from the vertices around. and also you can use from the volume. So right now it's emitting from all sides from the volume of this cube. Here you can see it's changed the different type of distribution. You can set to random, you can set to emit from the grid, and here you can select how many faces, how many particles are going to be emitted from the face. So next is cache. So here is when you have some heavy particle system, you can bake this and it's going to be much faster to be loaded and preview the whole animation. So once you bake the particle system, you will need to delete the bake, and after that rebake again if you want to change anything on those particle system. Next is velocity, so this is speed of the particles, and you can play with all of these settings. So here you can see that it's traveling very fast. And here we have also rotation, you can play with all of these settings. Here you can see that if you increase the randomness, all particles are going to emit with random speed as well. So I'm going to turn off this one and this one for now. And the next one is physics. So here, as you can see, we have Newtonian, and this is the basic physics of it. And here we also have voids, fluid, and also keyed. We are not going to talk about those, but for example, voids can be used for emitting, for following some of the if you want to some of your particles to behave like a flux or something like that. And keyed is usually necessary if you want to move your emitter and to change the location of the whole emitting system. So the next we have here mass, and here you can play with the weight of each particles, actually of all particles. So the heavier they are going to be slower, and here you can play with forces that are affecting those particles. Those are the same. Here you can choose that they are, if you want to those particles to die in collision with something. We are not going to change anything there for now. And here we can go and change the particles it looks. So for example, I can go and, for example, if I bring, let's say, cone, I'm going to move it on the Y. I can go and here under render, I can choose, instead of halo, I can select object, and for the object, instance object, which is this part here, I can go and use this object as a particle. So you can see that now we have the cone emitting from this cube, and here you can select the size of it and also increase the scale of the randomness as well. And here you can hide your emitter from being shown in render, but you can still see it in viewport display. And if you go all the way under viewport display, you can just turn it off, and right now you cannot see your emitter, but you are seeing only the particles. So right now I'm going to return everything, and here you can select that if you want your object to follow object rotation. And right now if you rotate this object, you can see that others are following as well. And next we have, here you can select that color of viewport display, and here you can select the different field weights that your particles is going to have. So for example, you can turn on gravity, and suddenly everything is going to fall down. And also those are some of the basic settings for the particle systems. There is also another type of particle system, and that one is a hair particle system. So right now I'm just going to go and scale the whole object so you can see. So basically those are good for using hair simulation, and for example we can with those make grass or landscape or something like that. So those are different types, and here you can also add another on top one and so on. So now let's try and make something with the particle system. So first I'm going to delete everything on our scene. So right now, as you can see, we have only camera on our viewport. So with the Shift and A we can go and bring a new cylinder to our scene, and here we are going to decrease number of vertices to be 8, and this is the basic for our fire torch. So we are going to make torch and fire as well. So here I'm going to go and scale this down, and I will go in edit mode. I can go and select both of these vertices here. I will press I for inserting face, so like this. Now I can go and press E for extruding this down, and this one can go down as well. So one more time I will press I for inserting face, and I can go and extrude this down. Now I will be able to select every second face on top, and I can go and extrude it up, and here we have basic torch. Now I will change my my pivot point to be individual origin, and here if I scale this down, I will be able to scale those, and we will have a little bit nicer look to it. So for example, we can go and with Ctrl and B bevel this part out, so like this. And for example, we can go and pull this down, and maybe for example we can pull this up, so we have something like this. It looks a little bit nicer, and we can go and scale this down. So now, as I already mentioned, we are going to make fire, and this is going to be our fire torch. So with the Shift and A I will bring another plane to our scene, so this is going to be our background. Now I'm going to set real quick my camera. So with the Shift and K key, or the key above tab, I will be able to enter in fly camera view, and let's say for example I want to be here, and now I'm going to scale the whole thing out. Next I will go in rendered view, and you can see that we don't have any light here, so here I will just bring simple sunlight. This is going to be very low poly, just because this is an exercise for particle system. Right now I'm also going to change the background color, so let's make it some dark red. And here for example we can go and change the color of our torch. So for example, let's try and make it some brown color. Actually this is a red, so I will need, let's see about this one here. I'm going to turn on ambient occlusion and bloom as well, so let's see it. So this is going to be fine for now. Right now I'm going to switch back to our solid view, and now we need something that emits fire. So with the Shift and A I'm going to create a new, let's say UV sphere, and right now I'm going to scale it down and pull it all the way on the top of our torch. And now I will go in front orthographic view, I will press tab, and here with vertex selection I'm going to get rid of half of it. So I can go and select this middle loop by pressing Alt and left click, and now if I press L to select everything linked here, I will be able to select this bottom part here, and I can press X to delete those vertices. So right now, as you can see, I'm having only those only half of UV sphere, and I'm going to scale this a little bit up, and I'm going to go in edit mode and pull it down, so I'm having this origin point roughly to the edge where it should be. So this is going to be emitter of our particle system. So the next thing that I want to add particle system to this UV sphere, and as you can see it immediately falling down. So now we will need to fix this, and now first thing that I'm going to do, I will turn off gravity, and you can see that now it's going up, as you can see. So like this, and now we can go and play with all of these settings. So first I will decrease number of particles that are going to be emitted. So the next step, what I'm going to do, I will play with those settings here. So let's say I want the whole particle system to be emitted until 150th frame, and for example we can go and decrease number of lifetime to be, let's say, 30, because I want to have particles that are disappearing. And also I will increase the lifetime randomness. Actually, let's make it 40, this one here, and I want those to go a little bit up. So first I can go and add, let's say force, and here you can go and select this force, and if you go under force settings, for example, you can increase the strength of it. And if you go in a negative, you can see that it will follow the whole, it will follow the force field that we add here. So right now, as you can see, all our particle systems are falling up, going up, and let's add a little bit noise here, let's say 5. And right now you can go and play with those settings. So now I'm going to keep everything as it is. You can play with the seed as well and turn off absorption, so all those are going to be affected with those. Also you can find and play with all of these force fields as you wish. And for our particles system, I want to emit meta ball. So here I'm going to go and stop this animation for a while. I will change the location of my 3D cursor. Let's move it here to the side by holding Shift and right click. And now with the Shift and A, I'm going to create a new ball to our scene. Actually, this is a meta ball, and the good thing about meta ball is, for example, you can go and merge those. They are merging together, so let me just... So the good thing about meta balls is when you duplicate it, you can see that they are merging together, as you can see. So every time you duplicate something, it's going to be merged, and those are really cool effects that you can use for your flame stylized frames. So I'm going to bring back my meta ball, and here let's go and increase a little bit number of resolution. So for example, let's go make it 0.1, so 0.1 as well on the render viewport, so both the same, so we can see in render and both in those. And here now, if you go under particle system, you can go and search for halo. Instead of halo, as I already mentioned, you can use object, and for the object we are going to use instance object. Select this with the eyedropper tool, and now if you play this animation, you can see that something is very weird is happening, and that's because we need to fix those issues here. So first I'm going to hide my emitter. I don't want it to be visible here. And now also I'm going to go and increase the scale of it, and here also I will increase scale randomness. So now I'm going to scale all the way down this, and now immediately we will have a very interesting torch, and you can see that our particle system is disappearing. So let's go and select our particle system once again. Actually, we need to find it here, and everything should be fine. So maybe we can go and just a little bit decrease number of, and here we are going actually to increase the strength actually of our force field. So the next step, we can go and play with this lifetime. So maybe we should go and return it to 30. So if you now go and press 0, you can see that we created very interesting torch. Right now I want to have this to change this type of camera from perspective to, let's say, orthographic view, and here we will have a totally different look than before. So I'm going to keep this one here like this, and right now I will select my meta ball, not that one but this one here, and I will go under shading. I will press plus for creating a new shader for it, and for this one I'm going to use gradient texture. And now if you plug in this to base color, you can see that nothing is happened, and the reason for that is we need color ramp. So with Shift and A I will search for color ramp, and now for example if you press plus, if you change the color on this white here, let me just see. Also we are going to press Ctrl and T to bring mapping. So let's see. And let's use spherical. And now I'm going to connect this to the surface. We can disconnect this one here. And by the way, if you cannot use Ctrl T shortcuts, you will need to go under Edit, Preferences, and my advice, you should always have this add-on, Node Wrangler add-on, turned on, because it's going to help you a lot. So for example, now you can press Ctrl and left click, Ctrl Shift to see the location, to see all these nodes, and immediately you can go and, for example, you can delete those two, and here with Ctrl and T you will be immediately enabled texture coordinate and mapping instead of searching it and losing time on that. So as I already mentioned, I'm going to change this color here. And I'm going to go and see this instance color here. And let's switch to linear, and here I'm going to go and let's change the rotation of it. Actually, if you select to constant, you will be able to see it clearly. So I'm going to rotate this one for 90 degrees, and here I will use those. And now I can go and change the color of it. So here I'm going to change to, let's say, B-spline. And now I will go and use a little bit brighter material than before. And also, for example, we can go and increase emission here. And actually, let's make this one, we need a black one for the fire as well. Actually, I'm going to keep it off emission. So actually, I think we need to change from generated to normal. And also for this one, we are going to replace this principal BSDF with emission shader. So I will search for emission, and now I can plug in this color here to color, and right now you can see that, for example, we can increase the emission power here, and also we can add one more variation color as well. So for example, we can go and make this one pure red, and you can see what effect we have here. So right now I'm going to change easing to be I want to change gradient texture to be easing, and maybe we can go and add also one more white, pure white material on top. We can pull this all the way here, and now to about here. Maybe this color can be a little bit more like this one here, and this white material can also be a little bit more orange like, and you can see that we have really cool stylized effect of our torch. So instead of sun, you can, for example, try to use point light this time, or maybe area light, which is even better. So I'm going to keep this one as it is. Let's see how it's going to look like. Very subtle and small animation, but very effective one. Also, for example, what you could do, you could also make some really cool effect with changing this color here. So for example, you can make it like magic power here, so something like this, let's say. But I'm going to keep as it is, as it was before. So something like this. Now you can go and render the whole animation. So this is going to be 5th project for this course. So fifth animation, and I will keep AV as a render file, and everything should be fine. So now you can go and press render animation, and your rendering is going to begin. So that's it about this video. Stay tuned, because we are going to do, in the next video we will create another project. So see you there. Hello everybody, and welcome back to our last video in this course. So here you can see that in the previous course we created our particle system, and now if you play this animation you can see that we have this stylized fire. And right now we know exactly how we can use particle system in Blender. So in this course we are going to do some interesting stuff, and especially for beginners we are going to create some animation with characters. So first thing that I will do, I will get rid of everything except my camera, and with the Shift and C I will return my 3D cursor in the middle of our grid. So now I'm going to open our internet browser, and here I will go on mixamo.com. This page is done by Adobe company. So right now also you will need to create accounts for your own, and here you can see that this is a web page where you can find free characters and animation that you can use for your projects. So now you can go under characters and search all different monsters and all different characters that you can use for your animation. We have some really funny one like this Dozy. It will take some time to be loaded, but once it's loaded you can see it actually glitches because it doesn't work 100%, but some of them are fine, some of them are not. And here, as you can see, we have a really cool one, really high quality characters which we can use for all our projects, and those are really good starting points when it comes getting started with character animation. So right now I will go on our first page actually on our second, and I want to use this Y bot. Let me just find it. It should be somewhere here. So I'm going to go and increase number of characters that are going to be shown, and it's right here. So this bot, because it doesn't have too complex textures, and I think this one is one of the best when it comes to beginners. So also now you can go under animation, and here you will find a lot of animation that you can apply to your character. So here you can see that we have zombie idle animation, or let's go on some other page. So here we can see different animation that we can apply to our character. We have this standard walk, and here you can decide would you like to be in the place and would you like to be mirrored, and here you will decide the speed of your animation and so on. So I want to find kick animation where this E-bot is kicking. So let's find some interesting one. So for our animation we are going to use some fly kick. I would like to find it. Actually, let's search fly kick here. Maybe something like this. And I want to keep everything here the same, so I want to download this character and this animation as well. So here you will need to select download, and here you can select different types of format and also different types of skin and frame per second. So I want to keep everything as it is, and now I will press download and our downloading is going to begin. So I will save it here on desktop, and right now I can go and close the whole internet browser. Now I can go back on in Blender, and here under file I will need to import that FBX file. So you will need to search for FBX, and on our desktop it should be flying kick, and here everything should be fine and the same. So now if you play this animation nothing will happen, but that's because it ends up on our 46th frame. So here for the ending I will decide to go with the 46th frame. So now let's see how this one is looking so far. So now I will press 0 to enter in camera view, and now I will go and navigate my camera. But actually it's set to orthographic, so that's the reason why I cannot zoom it. So now I will switch back to perspective view, and immediately I will be able to zoom in and zoom out. By the way, if you want to slow down camera speed, you will need to scroll down your mouse. So actually let's try to animate camera. So maybe this one here, and for example on this frame here I want to be, let's try this one here. I will press I also for rotation. So actually it's zoomed in, and after that I want to zoom out. Now I will press I for inserting keyframes here. So let's see, it's following, and when it kicks, actually it should be here. So now it looks much better than before. So when he jumps, it's following him, and now it's going back on its original position. So very cool animation we have with just simple character, and as you can see, really cool result. So with the Shift and A we can go and add plane to our scene. And now we can switch to rendered view, but as you can see we cannot see anything, and the reason for that is because we don't have any light. So for example, we can go and add sun lamp. I will turn on overlay so we can see it. So let's see. But for this one I'm going to change the type. It's not going to be sun this time, but I want to have area light. And I want it to be on top here, so let's actually try to make some interesting one. And here you will have different kind of light if you want. We can also change the lighting as well, but I'm going to keep everything as it is. So right now I'm also going to get rid of my background because I want to have different approach for this animation. So let's see if everything is fine here. I'm going to check it real quick. And everything should be fine. So we have 46th frame. And now for example we can go and change interpolation mode here to be linear. Let's switch to solid view so we can have it. Actually for those type of animation, Bezier is much better than linear type. So let's try a little bit more different approach, but I believe this one is too fast, so I'm going to return it. Let's go and see this one here. Let's make it even faster. So it looks like it's kicking the camera, which is a really cool result. So something like this is actually going to be fine. So you can play with all of these keyframes as you want. I'm going to keep focal length 50. I will turn on depth of field, and this one I will focus on his knee, on his foot actually, this one. Or actually we should focus on his knee. I'm going also this time to switch to cycle because I want to have higher quality render. And right now we can go and play with the depth of field. So we can go low with 1.2, so those are going to be fine. This time I'm going to turn on motion blur as well. And I want to show you one really cool trick, and that one is if you want to render this to be transparent, you can go under output settings, under render settings actually, and here under fill you just need to turn on transparent, and this time you cannot see anything except this character here on the background, and it's not going to be rendered anyway. And here you can decide the contrast of your final render. So I'm going to keep mine to be medium high contrast, and also if you go all the way down you can use curves to decide the brightness of your character. So the lower value is darker and the more higher number is going to be brighter. So mine I would like to be just a little bit down, so I would like to have something like this. So those are the settings that can help you to increase to have higher quality render. So if you want to render it faster, you can use GPU compute, but because I'm working on a Mac, I will not be able to use this GPU compute, and I will render the whole scene just using CPU. So here you can turn on adaptive sampling, which is new feature. And let's see what else we have here. Everything should be fine. So now under output setting, you can select your number of frame rate. So as we see already on Maximo, we selected that our frame rate is going to be 30 frames per second. So we should leave everything as it is. And here we have different kinds of file format that we can export. So we can use it as a PNG. So one of the most and the best way to render the animation is going to be with PNG, to render it as a image sequencer, but but later on we will need to merge those together in AV or MP4 or MKV in order to see the animation. So the reason for using PNG is that because if your Blender crashes for some reason, you will be able to continue from the last frame that you ended up. And here also you can render it out as a AV JPEG. You can increase quality to 100%, and also you can select the color from black and white to RGB. And also if you would want to render it out as a MP4, you can just change to FMPEG video, and here for encoding you just need to change to MPEG-4 and it's going to be rendered as a MP4 file. So for this I will leave as a AV JPEG because I believe that this one is the best and highest quality render. And also, for example, you need to turn on denoising, and if you turn on denoising data, you will have different you can also increase the quality render in compositing later on. So here everything should be the same, and now I'm going to render one frame, and later on we are going to use compositing for compositing background and also adding some fine details. So let's render the whole image right now. We will need only one frame for this one. And because we have our motion blur turned on, you can see that we have now blur on our character. And it's always good thing to have motion blur in some actions like this one here, as you can see. So here you can see that we are done with rendering this, and now we can go under compositing. And here I'm going to move this down. So for the compositing we are going to use nodes, and here we have those two nodes. So with the Shift and A we are going to search for viewer node, and now I'm going to plug in this image to image. So now you can see this background here. So with the Shift and A we are going to search for alpha over node, and for example we can go and plug in this one here and here, and now you will be able to see the pure white background of this as well. So also for for color management, if you want to have pure white background, you can go and use different type of colors. So right now is set to filmic, and you can change it to standard. So now it's pure white background, and here if you want you can go and play with this background color as you want, but I'm going to keep this one filmic because it's a little bit softer and it looks more subtle than this one here. So I'm going to keep this one white, and so with the Shift and A here I'm going to use also to find the denoise node, and I'm going to plug in this denoise node actually I will need to plug in this and denoise normal and also noisy image here and denoising albedo as well. So like this, and here I'm going to go also with mix, and I want to mix this one here with this one, and now I want to mix this node here. Actually I don't need this second here, and now everything should be fine. So let's see it. So don't forget to use compositing and to connect this image to compositing as well. And here you can play with all of these colors here. You can select different color approach. But for now I'm going to keep mine pure white. Like this, because it looks really nice. And here, for example, we can go and select multiply to mix those. Actually, I'm going to use just mix to mix those HDRI denoise. So now it looks much better than it is. Also, later on, if you want, you can go and change the color management, and here you can select different contrast. So I'm going to keep mine medium high contrast, and everything here should be fine. And here you can increase number of sampling, but for now I'm going to keep everything as it is. And now my animation is going to be ready to render it out. So we can just go render and render animation, but before that we will need to change the name of it. So this is going to be 6th animation. I'm going to save this file, and here I will press render and render animation, and our rendering is going to begin. So that's it about this course. I hope you like it. This is introduction to animation. We had couple of projects that we work on through this course, and I hope you learned something, and see you in the next one. Bye.